Wait, Quentin Tarantino almost made a Star Trek movie? And it was going to be R-rated? Like Pulp Fiction in space? Yes. Keep watching for the details about what could have been. If Quentin Tarantino doesn't strike you as the kind of director Paramount would have had on its shortlist for Star Trek, you'd be right. The humble beginnings of Tarantino's never-made sci-fi blockbuster came from Tarantino himself, not the studio. Tarantino is an admitted fan of the franchise who has cited the original series The City on the Edge of Forever and the Next Generation episode Yesterday's Enterprise as personal favorites.
One more ship will make no difference in the here and now. But 22 years ago, one ship could have stopped this war before it started.
It began with a 2015 interview with Chris Hardwick, in which Tarantino discussed his love of Trek and his potential interest in helming a movie. Hardwick initially asked the director about Star Wars, but Tarantino pivoted to say, "I would be more inclined to do a Star Trek kind of thing." In September 2017, TMZ cornered Tarantino at an airport and questioned whether he'd actually direct such a project. He responded, "It would be worth having a meeting." By December of that year, Deadline reported he was officially on board, and a writer's room was being assembled to flesh out his pitch. Things moved quickly, and just a few short weeks after the writer's room was put together, Deadline reported that Mark L. Smith was announced as the writer of the proposed film. Smith's previous work, which included the Leonardo DiCaprio drama The Revenant, was a far cry from the likes of previous Trek writers Roberto Orci and Alex Kurtzman, mostly known for penning popcorn blockbusters such as Transformers and Cowboys and Aliens. In an interview with Bulletproof Screenwriting, Smith spoke about writing the script with Tarantino and working with J.J. Abrams' production company Bad Robot. He said,
"They just called me. It was like the day later and said, 'Hey, are you up for it? Do you want to go? And if so, then, Quentin wants to hook up.' So I said, 'Yeah, sure.'"
He continued, "And that was the first day I met Quentin. In the room, and he's reading a scene that he wrote. I told him I was so mad I didn't record it on my phone. It would be so valuable. It was amazing." Smith gave a few hints about the still unknown plot, but mostly talked about his enthusiasm about the project. In a 2019 interview with Empire magazine, Tarantino himself noted that the script was done as he weighed his options for his next project, saying, "There's a script that exists for it now. I need to weigh in on it, but I haven't been able to do that yet." A year after the project's announcement, the film's story was still a tightly guarded secret. Nobody knew who would star, but the biggest question on everybody's lips was whether Tarantino himself would direct or just take producer and story credits. Paramount must have been hopeful he would take the helm, but many outlets were skeptical, mostly because Tarantino wasn't known for directing properties that he hadn't created. While he had directed a handful of episodes for TV series including ER and CSI, his films were all originals, with the exception of Jackie Brown, which was an adaptation of an Elmore Leonard novel. 2 years into development, Tarantino was still uncertain whether he'd direct, and the internet was abuzz with rumors that he might be stepping away. Deadline caught up with him and asked him about the gossip. He replied, "I might be steering away from it, but we'll see. I haven't completely decided or talked to anyone involved. Nothing is official." In 2020, Deadline reported Tarantino had officially dropped out, and that if the movie were to be made, he wouldn't be sitting in the director's chair. Tarantino's 9th film as director, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, hit theaters in 2019, and while that movie made quite a splash, his Star Trek proposal was still a big topic. Speaking once again to Deadline, the director revealed that his Trek would be a balance between classic Star Trek and his own Pulp Fiction. Tarantino also expressed his grievances with Trek actors who had tried to tamp down the project. He said their comments weren't accurate because they weren't as in the know as they claimed. He named one name specifically, saying, "I get annoyed at Simon Pegg. He doesn't know anything about what's going on, and he keeps making all these comments as if he knows about stuff." One of the comments he said, he's like, "Well, look, it's not going to be Pulp Fiction in space." Yes, it is. It's at the very least unique in that regard.
It's an interesting point. Come on, let's get into character.
One actor who didn't seem to upset Tarantino with his comments was Carl Urban, who played Leonard Bones McCoy in the 3 J.J. Abrams-produced Star Trek films. In a 2018 interview with TrekMovie.com, the actor said he heard the pitch and confirmed just how wild it was. He also confirmed rumors that the film would carry an R rating, a first for the franchise. While some were concerned this meant the film would be filled with cursing and nudity, Urban noted that it was more about showcasing the true horrors of space, explaining, "You shouldn't worry that it's going to be full of obscenity and stuff. He wants an R rating to really make those beats of consequence land. It allows some breadth, gives him some leeway to do that." According to Deadline, Tarantino himself had asked the studio for an R rating, with Paramount and production partner Bad Robot agreeing to it. The director later confirmed it in his 2019 Deadline interview, saying, "If you've seen my 9 movies, you kind of know my way is an R-rated way, and a way that is without certain restrictions." Tarantino also said that producer J.J. Abrams was fully on board and likened it to recent R-rated blockbusters, saying, "Deadpool showed that you can rethink these things, do them in a different way. So really, even before JJ knew what the idea was, his feeling was, if it wants to be an R rating, fine. If it wants to be the Wild Bunch in space, fine." Without plot details, many wondered if we might see Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto return, especially given that the last film in the series, Star Trek Beyond, was considered a disappointment. Some wondered if there might be an all-new cast, but Tarantino himself professed his love for the Abrams cast, and it soon became clear that if the film were to move forward, that cast would return. In the 2017 Deadline interview, Tarantino said, "That's why I actually really was so taken with J.J. Abrams' first reboot and how fantastic I thought Chris Pine channeled William Shatner. He's playing the William Shatner version of Kirk, and he's doing a fantastic job at it. I mean, perfect, frankly. And Zachary Quinto is perfect as Spock." In July 2018, Quinto spoke to USA Today and confirmed his involvement alongside the cast of the previous 3 films. "I'm thrilled that we might have the opportunity to work with him and see what he would do with us in this universe. I've been a fan of his for years, and I'm really inspired by his originality." In his interview with Bulletproof screenwriter Mark L. Smith explained how the story of the movie involved a cool gangster scene. A Deadline report also mentioned that it might be a 1930s gangster story, which immediately got fans speculating that it could be inspired by or related to the classic original series episode, A Piece of the Action. The 1968 episode of the original Star Trek series saw Kirk, Spock, and Bones land on an alien planet with a culture entirely based around Prohibition-era Chicago. The planet had apparently been visited by another Federation starship in the days before the Prime Directive, and that ship unwittingly contaminated the culture by leaving behind a book titled Chicago Mobs of the 20s. Though it may not be what many expected, a Star Trek gangster film certainly fit Tarantino's description of something we'd never seen in a big sci-fi movie, and there's no doubt it would have offered him plenty of opportunities for the kinds of crime stories he does best. Following the release of Star Trek Beyond, Paramount was unsure of where to take the franchise. While audiences and critics seemed to like the film, it disappointed at the ticket counter, failing to live up to its predecessors. Unsure of how to proceed, Paramount was thrilled to hear of Tarantino's interest, but the studio also decided not to put all its eggs in one basket. Spock actor Zachary Quinto told Deadline there were as many as 3 different scripts in development before the sequel was officially given the green light.
I think there's a couple of scripts, because there was a script being written before Quentin Tarantino.
Quinto told ET Canada that a sequel written by Simon Pegg and Doug Jung was in the works before Tarantino approached the studio in 2017. Noah Hawley of Fargo and Legion was also reportedly developing a screenplay that nearly went into production. Screenwriters J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay were also working on a story that was dubbed Star Trek IV. The project was said to be directed by S.J. Clarkson and would have starred Chris Hemsworth, apparently entirely separate from the version entering production in 2022 to be directed by Matt Shakman. Rod Roddenberry, son of Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry, was pretty vocal about his displeasure with Paramount bringing in Tarantino to helm a new Trek film. Roddenberry serves as an executive producer on the many new Star Trek series, including Discovery and Strange New Worlds, and he also acts as a steward for the brand his father created. In a 2021 interview with Forbes, he said he's a fan of Tarantino, insisting that his rejection of an R-rated Tarantino Trek film had to do with the integrity of the franchise. He said, I struggle with the Tarantino Star Trek film because the way I'm pretty myopic with the way I see Star Trek. I grew up with fans saying how Star Trek inspired them and gave them hope for the future. It's the optimism and the messaging in there that makes Star Trek what it was. With that in mind, Roddenberry didn't love the idea of Pulp Fiction in space. He continued, "I'll be honest, that doesn't work for me." But he is a fan, and I think as a fan, he probably understands to some degree that Star Trek has to have some of this hopeful, optimistic messaging. Many Trek fans were excited about the prospect of Tarantino producing something risky and daring. One user on TrekMovie.com wrote, "Tarantino would bring something fresh and the characters would be vibrant and logical." They added that the director's involvement would reinvigorate the film franchise. Others weren't as happy about it. Another user declared that under no circumstances should this be allowed to happen. On Reddit, user Dylan Vincent seemed to agree with Roddenberry, saying, "This is such a bad idea. The original spirit of Star Trek gets no respect anymore." Another Redditor, Concho Bear, offered another viewpoint, saying, "I really hope this happens. This would be insane. I love Trek and Tarantino, and they together could be amazing." With the idea reportedly scrapped, it seems the naysayers got their way. As the rumor mill swirled about Tarantino's Star Trek project, several major Star Trek alumni expressed interest in reprising their roles. In an interview with Reuters, William Shatner expressed his love for the director and his passionate longing to return as Captain Kirk. He said, "Quentin Tarantino said something in the paper that somebody said to me, that he loved me. And Quentin, I love you. If you're going to do Star Trek, hey, 50 years later, a few pounds heavier, come on, not a problem. I'd like to do it." George Takei, who played Sulu on the original series, told Yahoo Entertainment of his interest, but also said it would all depend on the script. And it wasn't just original series stars who spoke up. Patrick Stewart, who played Captain Picard on Star Trek The Next Generation, made it clear that he'd love to return if Tarantino was involved, telling The Hollywood Reporter, "One of my dreams is to work with Tarantino. I admire his work so much, and to be in a Tarantino film would give me so much satisfaction. So if he is going to direct something to do with Star Trek, I would embrace it." Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite movie franchises are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.